Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Club, the IoT North Breakfast Club, that is. I'm Paul Wields, founder of IoT North. We're a community of 5,500 plus IoT people, predominantly across the UK, but we do have some European and US members as well. So thanks for joining the show this morning. We have a few things that we help you out here. So one, we help you understand what IoT is and the value of it as part of your digital transformation. If you would like to see and understand solutions out there, we have the marketplace, which is iotnorth.uk/marketplace. It's a clear format, and if you'd like to share your use case or find use cases for IoT, then please do go there. We've got about 27 from our members on there, and we're growing every day. If you'd like to understand and chat about IoT, have a call out and looking for help, then go to our forum, forum.iotnorth.uk. Let's fire ahead with the show this morning. We've got a great one, really interesting one, with the guys from Hedgehog Labs. So we've got Ray Clarke, we have David Scott, and we have Hannah Veltrup. Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Good, thanks. Morning.
Good. So we're going to have a chat about a project that was originally kicked off by the council, isn't it? Which is How Busy is Toon? Ray, would you like to tell us about how the project started and how you guys got involved?
Yeah, can do. Originally, we were contacted in July 2020 and invited to tender to build upon that original project you mentioned, Paul. And that original project was a collaboration between the council, the Urban Observatory, Newcastle University, and that used real-time computer vision to measure the footfall in the city centre. And that was to help residents kind of understand how easy or difficult it would be to socially distance.
Right.
And our remit was to come in and elevate that. So taking the original beta and then pointing in more of a direction that would support the post-COVID economic renewal in the city centre. So it was taking what those guys kind of originated, but making it much more focused and user experience driven as well. It was quite raw data. It wasn't really easy to use or understand or navigate. The data points were quite raw. So from a customer and user experience, it was quite difficult to kind of really understand what was going on there.
Yeah. So it's using computer vision, isn't it?
It is,
which was developed by the Urban Observatory and links to the universities in Newcastle. So for you that don't know what computer vision is, if you've seen Terminator, you would have seen what it kind of looks like. It's basically utilizing artificial intelligence and cameras as a sensor. You can do things like object detection and such like. So there is some fear and pushback about using vision as a sensor because people are scared about having their faces logged and Big Brother utilizing that data. But a camera only sees what you teach it to see. So in regards to, I believe with How Busy is Toon, it's using object detection and seeing people as an object and recognize them as an object and being able to monitor and see where they are. Not the actual person, just the object. So there's no fear around it. So anybody who lives in Newcastle, and I believe other cities are looking to do this as well, it's actually really good technology to utilize because it's quite expandable. For example, you can start to measure distance between people and such like as well with the artificial intelligence. So that's the techie bit, just a bit of clarification on the technology that's being used. David, how's user design enabled that evolution?
Well, I think it's been at the kind of the core of the whole project. In the original first phase, we began with people, talking to people, understanding kind of people's needs. We spent quite a lot of time speaking to people in video interviews and also in kind of ethnographic research, which was obviously all done very kind of COVID safe. And it was the first phase of research was done at an interesting time where we kind of just got out of a lockdown around last summer. Things were sort of returning back to normal, but not quite. And I think the evidence that we captured at the time and the feedback that we gathered indicated that people had gone through a lot. Mental health had been impacted. But there was an urgent or a need rather than an urgency to return to some level of normality. So we discovered that people kind of wanted to understand whether they could go back to their favorite pubs, their favorite restaurants, or they could get back shopping. But there was also kind of fear around using public transport, returning to the workplace, and all of these, I guess, themes that we discovered in the research informed what then ended up on the first version of How Busy Is Toon that you can see online today.
So you mentioned the research and stuff that you guys did on there. You've got an active survey going on at the moment, don't you? Which I'll just share with the community, and I'm just going to pop into the banners as well. Hannah, how does the survey help you understand the reaction to the project?
We're currently working on a bit of a second phase of it and trying to understand how we can potentially further build on the website, and we're trying to understand what potential features at the moment could be potentially of interest of helping people to plan their journeys or make journeys to town, and really get an insight what is it that would people consider really helpful, and we could build on to make that journey easier now that things are opening up more and make them more comfortable in that part.
Yeah. So what's in your questioning, are you asking about the technology that's being used, or are you asking about their feeling about that getting back into society and connecting?
Well, I think just to give you background, so we've done a bit of more research in the recent few weeks, just to learn about how are people feeling now about getting back on the bus, for example, because we've noticed a few dips maybe and people feeling comfortable about that with the current pandemic and having preference up to cars, but actually also maybe a bit more active travel, such as walking or cycling. So we've done a bit of more research around that part to learn more. So at this current stage, we're now building on what we've collected there through interviews again and surveys, which were also not just Newcastle focused, but across the region. We've now built a bit of an understanding, and now almost more like what is it exact? Like we've come up with a few ideas, and now trying to understand, would that actually appeal? Is that sort of correctly understood? How they would feel more comfortable? What are the tools that they would need to make that journey easier and better?
Yeah. So I think this leads on. This really is in synergy of a talk we did a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows about the importance of user design, and that there's an awful lot of technology for technology's sake, but actually if you think about the user and stuff and putting them at the forefront, then it definitely gives more value and should give you better adoption on your service. Ray, tell me about how Hedgehog Lab approached that generalistically, outside of how it will park how busy is Toon for now. But what's the approach for Hedgehog Labs with customers?
Well, customers and users, our approach is very much a research and data-led approach. Just to give you a little bit of a kind of back history of where I came into Hedgehog Lab, that was originally to set up the design team as a product design team. But over probably the 2 to 3 years of being there, I've been a designer for some 20 odd years, and I understand often how poorly designers do research. So we added an internal UX research team to the design team to do what I would say proper research. So again, working alongside the designers to work through those kind of design hypotheses, taking those to the users with prototypes and user testing, and then giving the designer a more defined path of a feature or area to build upon. So again, really kind of focusing on what the users actually want, and it kind of crosses over what you were saying originally, Paul. And again, with focus on how busy is Toon, the original kind of conception of that was showing data, and the users had to kind of digest that and will broadcast that. It wasn't really kind of super obvious and easy to really digest and make it useful. So we've gone back to the market, back to the users. It's to actually ask them what they want, and then to investigate wider data points to try and make that happen. So again, we were kind of, the project this year is very different to how the project kind of originated for us last year, but it is still really driven by the UXR team here at Hedgehog Lab, going to the users. And that's not just users at home, it's businesses and organizations as well, and understanding how they want to use data to kind of entice people back to the city centre as well and drive that economic regrowth.
Yeah. So it's a really key part, like my background's business development partners and innovation. There's always a nice little word to throw in there. But product for the past few years, I've led teams across the world as well as being a hands-on product manager and stuff as well. And it's quite amazing, especially with technology, how much presumption there is when people are building products. It's like, I've got this great idea. These are the people that'll buy it without doing any of that research. David, how do you help people to go on that journey to realize that there's a different approach, which actually is data-driven?
I think it all just depends on the client, to be honest with you. But I think it's about showing that we're not just going to ask people direct questions to discover answers, and that there's different ways and methodologies in which we can collect evidence. I guess with How Busy Is Toon, the way that we kind of got the buy-in for the site, or phase 1 of the site, covering more than just kind of busy levels, we captured a lot of video evidence. So you're really seeing the people that you are building the product for. We talk to them about kind of their lives rather than just specific questions in relation to the site. So we get a real good understanding of who our audience is. We go through a lot of exercises to kind of really sort of segment the audience and understand what potential kind of features that we're building apply to specific audience groups. And we try where possible, and it has been difficult over the past 12 months, but to do ethnographic research. So we really try to kind of get to know the people that we're building products for. And I think in turn, if we can capture that evidence, through video, through audio, collect it in as much real evidence as possible, I think that helps to take partners that we're working with on a journey to understand what we're building and who we're building it for.
Yeah, that's the use of video is actually a really interesting thing that I've started to hear this use more and more. Sometimes we used to do like audio recording, but actually people's reactions in the faces when they're given feedback really gives away an awful lot and helps you understand. Some people can say yes and they really mean no, and stuff like that. So I applaud that adoption of using the video side of things. It's a great use. When you can collect that data and actually use it as a reference point to justify a bit of a curveball with a customer, it's absolutely perfect. They can't qualm or challenge it. Hannah, help me understand your role at Hedgehog Lab and how you approach things.
Sure. Like David, we're both the user researchers here. And I think, to describe our role is often that we try to understand why the client is coming to us in the first place and what they're trying to achieve. Often they obviously come with certain ideas, but we try to understand where does this idea come from, and trying to understand who are their users. So basically almost do at the beginning user research with the client itself to really understand the whole story. And then attempt to learn more about the market itself, how do they compete, who are the people they might talk to as well or consider competitors, and learn really more about the industry as a whole, just to give us a bit of a background of what's happening around there. Potentially then obviously also look at what's their idea, is that something that already exists, and look really at the broader market there as well, so not just direct competitors but also similar ideas and concepts. And then of course speaking to users as much as we can. Again, that might be through interviews, ethnographic, by learning about their lives, how do they engage maybe with the product on an everyday basis, and really learn about basically the entire picture as much as possible, about all the different stakeholders that are involved and users and wider world, and then really get together and try to digest that and put that in a bigger picture again. I think me coming from a psychological background, it's sort of the research analysis is a lot putting it all together and creating from all these different data points, creating a more coherent picture that then to actually make sense and a bit more streamlined and give direction of where we could take this. So it's in a way taking lots of data points and then merge it together and to give everything a sense of direction and a feeling of where we can go with this.
I really like the word that you used there about pictures. And because being able to visualize and communicate is so key. One of the questions I am really intrigued by is How often do you find that actually with your research, you're having that conversation with the customer to pivot from what their original presumption was? Ray, I'll pass that to you.
Yeah, I think that's a natural part of the product's evolution. A lot of our clients have a pivot point, and again, just to show that kind of journey through Hedgehog Lab. Often they come to us with a preconceived idea, but we unravel that and reframe the problems, and often take that in a different direction based on robust user research and data, where we can prove to the client that some of their assumptions are kind of off track, or maybe not right for implementation right now, but actually in 12, 18 months time, when we've done phase 1, phase 2 as maybe an MVP launch, that they would be relevant. And for us, it's not kind of building their grand vision on day one, but building towards that. And there are multiple pivot points along that journey. So again, it's very agile and very kind of chunked along the way to that kind of grand vision. I mean, we'd be naive to kind of just take the brief from the client and build that massive kind of moonshot vision from day one, because again, the way we work, we get constant user feedback from the design phase, from prototyping, and then build as well. So, releasing a project and product early, we get continuous user feedback that influences the build going forward, the parts that aren't yet built. So again, you're constantly iterating and pivoting slightly as you go.
Yeah. That kind of leads on to a great question which just come through from Helen. Good morning, Helen. Always great to have your comments. Thank you. When 2020 forced a lot of research online, what approaches did you do to capture the needs of the digitally excluded, both for your research and in terms of making the product as accessible as possible? Ray, I'll go to you first.
This is one I would probably defer to our UXR experts on the call, Paul. They really are. That's why they were brought in the Hedgehog Lab, because me being a designer, my research would have been done in kind of 20 minutes, and I would be getting onto the design. So the guys have a much more robust approach and much more kind of experience and techniques to drive this type of engagement. So I'd say they were better placed to answer this one for Helen.
Okay, we'll go to David first.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good question. And if I'm totally honest with you, I think we probably could do a better job than what we have done. Naturally, the work that we tend to do is involved in the digital space. So a lot of the users and people that we're looking to talk to are people who will use a digital product. Additionally, because of COVID safety rules, we haven't encouraged people that we work with in research projects to travel to meet us to do kind of face-to-face interviews. So a lot of what we've done has been online. Some of the ethnographic studies that we've done, we had in the most recent stage of How Busy Is Toon, we had a chap that we worked with who, when we asked if he could kind of collect evidence for us, kind of photos, videos, he didn't have access to kind of WhatsApp or some of the more kind of familiar digital tools, but he took photos on his DSLR and kind of sent them to us. So I think we can definitely do better to include people who have less access to digital platforms, and I think that's something that we'll focus on over the next 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really interesting question, Helen. Thanks for this, because from a conversation I was having last night, actually, with somebody in public sector about how they're trying to, do this digital transformation and shared services and working digitally as well, but being very cognizant of the fact that there are still an awful lot of people that are digitally excluded, and how they still support them with the planning and stuff that they do as well. Hannah, how do you think we could do this better? How do you think we could include them better?
I mean, it's genuinely, I would agree, it's kind of hard, especially now with the current pandemic. But I think certainly being more out and about in areas where you might be aware that these people don't necessarily, let's talk, for example, maybe some of the older population that might not be as familiar with digital products, actively seeking those out. Where are they? Where would they be located? And having the chance to speak to them. Obviously now, once restrictions are done and we're all vaccinated, for example, that will be a lot easier, given that in the past, obviously, would try and stay away, just not to put anyone at risk, but actively seeking those. And again, almost doing the user research of where can we find them, where can we approach them, where can we learn more about them. So really just actively finding places, where are they, where do they meet up, and just really actively go there and speak to them to learn more about it. I think that's kind of the best approach, and see what challenges are there and how can we maybe meet them even outside technology, some way or another.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Ray, go on.
So Paul, just to highlight kind of, I know Helen's question was based around the kind of, 2020 and the 2021, the pandemic kind of, phase. But previous to that, we would do a lot of kind of on-site and environmental research, going to the kind of, to the core face, as it were, when we're doing a lot of work with organizations like Northumberland Water, people like that, where we would actually get our hands dirty working with their teams. Obviously, the pandemic's absolutely restricted that. So we've probably lent on more digital solutions to actually facilitate that. And again, it's probably made the face-to-face stuff, obviously it's accessible digitally, but the face-to-face stuff, like Helen's rightly saying, is very difficult. But again, I think it's something to be very mindful of, because it is such a kind of percentage of our user base for the product, like how busy is Toon.
I think Irene's got a great suggestion here. Maybe we create a digital bus and travel to people. And I mean, interesting, let's bring it back. We're nearly running out of time. As always, running over the 20 minutes that I set, but that's okay. The limit is 30. With how busy is Toon, this is about enabling people with the data to be able to make a choice on how they're traveling. And it's basically finding those people that may be digitally excluded from low income, age, whatever it is, that they are looking to use the public transport. That's maybe a great place to go, and maybe it's creating a free digital bus sponsored by Go Ahead Northern or something like that to then collect people, and they get free travel if they do the survey. As a mad concept, maybe. Just want to say hello to Alex. Hi, Alex. Thanks so much for joining us. He's having a little bit of technical issues with his work computer. Maybe security around your workplace. Okay, so what's to wrap things up? What is the next steps with How Busy is Toon? Ray, I'll go to you.
Okay, then the next steps for us this phase in 2021 are really focusing around travel and transport needs and those opportunities which we've mentioned, and also touching on the challenges faced by leisure and the tourism sector. So currently we're still in a kind of heavy research phase, which we're coming to the end of now. That'll help us shape a product and direction, which we're going to take to build here at Hedgehog Lab, and that'll take the current How Busy is Toon website to its third iteration. So this week we've got a show and tell at the end of the week where Hannah and David are presenting that recent round of research and findings, and from that we're going to kind of start to shape and develop the next evolution of the product. So that's where it's at from my point of view.
Excellent. One of the things we had a chat about when we spoke a few weeks ago is about that access of data and combining that data to enable things even more. And interestingly, we had Paul Armstrong and Chris Thompson from Northumberland Council and North Tyneside Council, and they were saying the same thing, that if you can anonymize data and make that accessible to enable more services like this, there is a big value. If anybody's watching that wants to have a chat about that and has ideas on how we can make that accessible, would love to do that as a show. Ray, David, Hannah, thanks very much for joining me this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward. I heard about How Busy is Toon very early on for the Urban Observatory, and I've been watching what it was doing. I was really intrigued to see the evolution, and it's great to see they've got you guys researching it properly to make something pretty damn cool of it. So really looking forward to seeing how things go. I've got one more comment. I embraced digital technology in my 50s. Was very nervous, but love it now. I'm a member of the public Perhaps people just need to be a bit more confident. Quite rightly so. And there's a number of programs there, Irene, from companies like BT and EE and Vodafone and such like that have these digital camps to help people adopt it more. The thing is, you've got to find it on their website. But in any case, maybe to do a tech service for it. But guys, thanks very much for joining me this morning. Really appreciate it, and look forward to having you on again as things progress with this and any other projects that you guys are working on. By the way, can you confirm something? Did you guys do pick packs?
Yes.
Yeah, one of my favorite apps. If nobody's seen PickPacks, check it out on the App Store. It's awesome. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to play the outro. Guys, thanks very much for joining us, and look forward to catching up soon.